אני האלף והטוב, hatav. Tav, right, and tav is the last letter, and tov means good, so now you got me thinking if it's written out, various tov and tav, if there's a relationship. Got to look those up, right? Okay, page 32, how do we say 32, the number 32?
32.
In Ivrit. Ivrit. Lo Sfardit, not Spanish. Ivrit. 30 is shloshim. So it's like 3 in the plural. Im is plural, so shloshim. Right, shloshim ve, which means and, shtaim. Okay? Sí, 22, 23, 32,
So if you can
28.
get from 30 to 40, so how was 30 again?
So 30 is shloshim.
Shloshim.
What do you think 40 is?
Arba.
Arba'im. And what do you think 50 might be? Chameshim. And what word 60 made? Right.
Shevashim.
Right, 60, Sheshim, and 70, Shevi'im, right, and right, 80, Shmoniim, and right, Tishaim, and then 100. Anyone know 100? Mea. Okay? Yeah, so yeah, with that you can do lots of shopping. Right? Okay, see if you guys know these words without looking. We're going to start with the Ivrit, and you guys give me the Anglit. Ready? Av. Father, right? Av, Abba. Let me just throw this at you real quick. Abba does not mean daddy.
No.
Right? Everyone's like, daddy, right?
No.
Abba means father. It comes from the Aramaic. Because you know how in Hebrew, the is at the beginning of the word, the hey is attached. In Aramaic, it comes on the end. So it's like saying father the. Okay, there are some languages that do that. They put the article on the end of the word. House the. Oh, look at house the. It's very pretty, right? So that means father in Aramaic. It's just another way of saying father. Abba. Okay, so Av. And next one, El. Two, like I'm going to the store, I'm going to synagogue. All right, and third one is Isha. Right, woman. Try to cover it up.
Yeah.
Good. And then next one is Behema. Animal. Right, animal. And then we have Bat. Daughter. Right, daughter. Okay. And son is Ben. Right. Okay. And that's why we say bar mitzvah comes from the Aramaic for son. Okay, a son of the commandment is a bar mitzvah, and a daughter of the commandment is a bat mitzvah. Okay, good. Next is he.
He is she.
She, right.
Yeah, I remember that little
He is she, right.
He is who, right?
Right. Who is he, and he is she, right? And then we have what? Halach, which means
Walk.
And then that very important word is your walk with God is halacha. You hear that a lot in Judaism.
Yeah.
My walk, halacha. Okay, good. So we move over to the next, because we're going from right to left, like good Hebrew readers. What do we have? Yerushalayim. Jerusalem, which means inheritance of peace. Okay, it doesn't mean city of God's peace. Everyone likes to say that, but it means inheritance of peace. Mean means from. It's okay. All right. Sorry, I almost said it. Mitzrayim, Egypt. Okay. Mishpacha, family, and it's feminine, of course. And notice that behind or after every single translation in English, there's an F and there's an M. What do they stand for? Feminine or masculine? Because in Hebrew, as in many languages, the nouns are either feminine or masculine. Okay? All right. So we did mishpacha, and then we have na'ara. Right, a young girl. Right, young woman, young girl. And then we have Ruth. I love that. I love that name. It comes from the root for to see and friend, okay, because you see a friend a lot. And then we have Sarah, which means Sarah, and it comes from the root for prince or chief or right commander, something like that. All right? So we did practice that. Now I want you guys to say them in Hebrew. Ready? Cover your Hebrew. Father or ancestor? Av. To, like I'm going to the store. En. Woman or wife?
Isha.
Isha. Animal or cattle? Big word in the book of Job. Refers to the big animals. Behemah. Behemah. Right, and behemoth comes from that. Behemoth is just an English kind of corruption of the word behemoth, which means animals. But it refers to the big animals that
That's a
used
good way
to.
to remember that.
Yeah? Yes, yeah, exactly. Okay, daughter? Bat. She or it, feminine? He. Walked or went? Halach. Jerusalem? Yerushalayim. And there's two different little variations of spelling, okay? From? Min. Egypt? Mitzrayim. Family? Mishpacha. Young girl, young woman? Na'ara. Ruth and Sarah? Sarah. Okay, good. So we talked about gender, that your nouns are feminine or masculine, and then later obviously they're going to be singular or plural. We're going to get into that. And we talked about there's usually two very classic endings on your feminine nouns, and they're giveaways. There's the hey and the and tav, okay? So chances are it's going to be feminine if you look and it's got a hey or a tav on the end. And of course there's exceptions. What are the clue letters for masculine nouns? None, right. There's really no way to tell that, you can look at it and go, well, it doesn't end with a hey, it doesn't end with a tav. Maybe it's masculine, right. Okay, good. Then we went to gender of verbs, right? Which we don't have in English. In English we have singular and plural verbs. We don't have feminine or masculine, okay? But in Hebrew, they've got masculine and feminine, okay? And we're on page 33 now, page 33, in the middle of the page. It says, in the last chapter, all the verbs were used in their masculine singular form. They all had the same pattern of vowels. And the pattern is right below where the little X's are, representing the consonants.
Where are we?
So right in the middle of page 33. So where the little X's are. Right, so the pattern goes, what are those vowels there? What's that vowel that looks like a little T? Right, a kametz, and then a patach, and then nothing. Okay? So your root for your masculine singular verb in the past tense, and the perfect is going to be consonant, consonant, consonant. 3. Okay? Typically. Okay? And so it goes kametz, patach, nothing. All right? So nothing. That's how it's pronounced. The feminine, so now we're going down to the bottom of page 33, where the little X's are. So you've got consonant, 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 hey. And hey is a consonant too, but I mean any consonant, 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 hey. So the masculine is typically got the 3, but the feminine singular has got the 4. So it's got 3 plus a hey. So then it goes, what's that one that looks like a T? Comets, right? Comets, and then the 2 dots on top of each other. Shiva, and then another comet, and then your hey. So, right? So, comets, Shiva, comets, hey. Right? So it'll be like and then Shiva, and then hey. Okay? And they gave all these lovely examples on page 33. Are you guys good with that? Stop me if you have any sheilot. Any questions? You good? Okay. All right, so when we went to 34, we learned that our verb has to agree with subject, right? It has to agree with if it's masculine or feminine, it's got to agree. Do you want to sit next to Cheryl and look at her book, or are you good? You're just good listening, Tim? Okay.
I'm just keeping up with the conversation and everything else. I'll put it together later.
Okay, excellent. So then in Hebrew, the subject and the verb in a sentence must have the same gender. Okay? Just like in English, it must have the same number. If it's a singular subject, you have a singular verb. In Hebrew, it's going to be masculine subject, masculine verb. Feminine subject, feminine verb. And then they have to agree with number as well.
So the
Okay?
verb is always the same, but it's masculine or feminine.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's going to have, and which it's going to change its voweling a little bit, okay? And it might, like in the feminine, it's got a hey on the end, where the masculine doesn't have a hey. So this is masculine, singular, feminine, singular, past tense. And they give us a bunch of nice examples. So I'm going to say it. I'm mixing them all up. Tell me what I'm saying. Sarah Shamra.
Sarah.
Sarah Shamra. Good. What if I said, Hu Amad? Hu Amad.
Stood.
He stood. Hu Amad. Hu Amad. Remember, the Amida comes from the standing prayer, okay? What if I said, David Shamar? David Shamar. Or I might say, He Amda. He Amda. She stood, okay? Then we talked about roots. And we said the Hebrew language is built on a system of roots. A lot of Middle Eastern languages are built on root systems. A Hebrew root is a set of letters, usually 3. And notice they say usually, because we're going to find some that are 2, but most of the time 3. Okay? It expresses a general idea, and then the vowel patterns and additional letters are added in, prefixes, suffixes, infixes, okay, to give it a more specific meaning. Okay? And many words with similar meanings are created from the root, and they gave you a beautiful example. Like, for example, how do you say he ruled?
Shamar.
He ruled, he ruled.
He ruled. Oh, he rolled.
He ruled, he ruled, or he reigned. Say it, Cheryl. Malach. There you go. But how do you say king?
Melech.
Melech. And then how do you say kingdom?
Melechut.
Malachut. Malachut. Right? So did you notice that those 3 root letters are in each one?
Yeah.
But we've had changes of vowels. In the case of Malchut, we had additional letters, all right, and in the suffix. And they do the same thing, okay? And they just go on, all right, with that. So it's fun. Verb roots. So now I'm on page 34, right? Shoshim ve'arba, and I'm at the part at the bottom that says verb roots. There's an especially important relationship between your Hebrew roots and your Hebrew verbs. Every verb in Hebrew has a root, generally composed of how many letters? 3. And in chapters 4 and 5, we introduce the following verbs. So how do you say he heard? Shama. He walked. Halach. Halach. How do you say he guarded? Shamar. He remembered. Zachar. Right, remember, get your guttural on. Zachar. Good job. He stood. Amad. He ruled. Malach. Malach.
Can you say he remembered with the CH sound and the rolling R sound? I mean, I want to hear you say it because it's hard to do.
Do you want the rolling R in my throat? Zahar. Zahar. Okay, Zahar. Zahar. Zahar.
It's easier for me to do.
Yeah, to roll it up in the front. And there are native speakers of Hebrew that do, like some do, they roll it up front and some in the throat. Yes?
I have a question. When it's saying like Shema is he heard, how come you don't say who Shema? Like the
Oh,
word
that's
for
a great
he.
question.
That's what
Why
I'm
didn't we
trying
put
to-
the subject pronoun all there? Why didn't we say hu shama, hu lacha,
Yeah.
or hu halach? I'm sorry,
Great question.
right? Hu shama. Great question, and they say it. I think they say it. Where do they say it in here? Anyway, okay. You do not need your subject pronouns in Hebrew. In English, we do, right? If I walk up and I said walked,
No, he or she.
you have no idea who I'm talking about, right? But if I say, he walked to the synagogue, right? Or I walked, I have to use some kind of subject pronoun or a name in order for you to know, right?
Yeah.
In Hebrew, we don't have to. So I can walk up and say, halach, halach el Yerushalayim. Immediately you know that I'm talking about he. He walked to Jerusalem. I don't have to say it right. Right,
That's why
halacha,
they have the two
halacha
different
el Yerushalayim. Right.
So
I
the
think they do
word-
it
It's-
because
it's,
short, 'cause they want it short.
So it's going to be written and it's going to be pronounced.
So we don't need a subject pronoun with the.
Don't need it.
If they don't need it, they leave it out.
But especially after it's been established in the paragraph you're writing, or it's been established in your conversation, who you're talking about. But
Yeah.
every person has an exact form of the verb, right? And feminine, masculine, singular, plural, you, I, he, she, they, we, right? In Hebrew. Okay, so we don't need the subject pronouns. When they are used, they're used for clarification, they're used for emphasis. Okay? Tim.
Yeah, so that was the comparison you were making between that and the way the Jamaicans speak. Because the Jamaicans have like a really hyper shortened version of like English and everything that I used to hear like on the construction site and everything
Oh,
else.
so when they're speaking patois.
Yeah,
Yeah. Then yeah, they really chop things up and they establish their own language, which by the way is absolutely
Yeah, it's
brilliant.
like,
It's
you know-
absolutely brilliant. And Haitians did that with French, Creole. They like mixed in their own words
Yeah.
and then they chop things up and they produce this. Very brilliant, by the way. That's extremely brilliant.
well, no, it's
You know,
like,
so-
it's, I'm seeing a correlation there because like if somebody said, hey, where'd Steve go? Oh, Steve went to go pick up some supplies and everything, but Jamaican dude would be like, go.
Yeah.
And that's it. And everybody, oh yeah, okay.
And that, right, and
Like,
anyone that
what?
speaks patois, they totally understand what he's saying.
No,
but
exactly.
and now, but English speakers are not exempt from that rule because we squish things together. Like it can be,
Oh, yeah.
it can be 1:30. Everybody had lunch, and I could walk up to Jill and go, "Gee,"
Oh,
Gee.
no.
and you know, which means did you eat?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So every language has its way of condensing.
Oh, you know,
Yeah.
like
Right.
country
So-
people.
right.
Oh, where's Mr. Smith live? Over yonder.
Or yonder.
Or yonder.
Or yonder.
Or yonder.
Right? So that,
And
that's
they know
right.
exactly where that is.
So to sum it up, Hebrew is not
Yeah.
an exception. Hebrew is no exception to condensing things. All right, so then we talked about that, and we went on to page 35, and how do we say 35? Shloshim vechamesh. Okay, and up at the top of page 35, Shloshim vechamesh, singular perfect patterns. So they've got the root way over to the right, and then masculine singular perfect. So it's like kametz, patach, nothing. And then feminine singular perfect, kametz, shiva, kametz, hey. Right? And then they give you a beautiful example. Okay? So the root for to hear, right, or listen, in masculine perfect, shema, in feminine singular perfect, shema, shema, shama, right, shama, shama. So the difference is written there, but it's hard to hear that difference in the when you're speaking it. You just have to listen to the context. So then we went to the root for to guard, masculine singular perfect, shamal. Here the feminine singular perfect sounds a lot different. Shamra, shamra. Then we go to the root for to rule or reign, and masculine singular perfect, malach, but feminine singular perfect, malacha, malacha, malacha. Then we go to the root for to walk, masculine singular perfect, halach, feminine singular perfect, halacha, halacha. Then we go to the root for to remember, right? And masculine singular perfect, he remembered, zachar, zachar, right? Feminine singular perfect, zahra, zahra, or zahra, 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 Okay? Last one is the root for to stand. Masculine singular perfect, he stood. Amad. Feminine singular perfect, she stood. Amda. And then we did and in Hebrew, which is ve or va, you know, and we talked about that. It normally takes the little shiva underneath, so it's kind of slurred, right? Ve, 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 ve. All right? And we talked all about that. So normally you're going to see the ve, but sometimes you'll see a va. Sometimes you'll see it combined.
I missed that class. That's when I was in Jersey. So
Okay.
I'm just curious. So and the father would be the Av.
Right. So father is Av, and a father is
The Av.
the Av.
Okay.
The Av.
Okay.
So the king is
Melech.
Hamelech, but and the king is
The Hamelech.
the Hamelech. So you notice in English we say and the dog, right? I went to the store with my brother and the dog, and two separate words. But in Hebrew, we squeeze it all together. We got the and the all attached to the word dog.
So when you
Okay,
say the Vav and the Hey in the beginning, it's and the.
Yeah? Unless it's like a name of a place, which might that begins with H. Right. Okay.
No, Susan.
Yes.
When you see it with like comments under it, is it pronounced? It's pronounced that way.
If they're I've got to let's go down and so let's go ahead and go through this section again. Okay? So David and Abraham and Ruth, how do we say that? David, ve'Avraham, ve'Ruth. David, ve'Avraham, ve'Ruth. Okay, so we've got a ve. David stood and he walked. How do we say that? David,
David, Amad,
Amad, vehu, halach. Right? David Amad, vehu, halach. The young man and the young woman. Hana'al, ve, hana'ara. Okay? The vav, and remember that word, that letter vav means like a nail, like you nail something to the wall to like put a picture on it. What's it doing? In essence, it's connecting, right? That's what it means. It's a connector. And that's why it's a big letter in the names for God and Yeshua, right? The Yod He Vav He, and Yeshua has a Vav in it because God wants us to be connected. All right? So the Vav and is sometimes written U, pronounced U, not Vu. And it may also appear as Vi, Va, Ve, Ve, or Va. And these variations do not change the meaning of the Vav and you can look at that little, we went over that little footnote on page, I forgot where the footnotes
It was
are.
393 in my book.
393 in your book, so that
Yeah.
can't be too far away in my book.
393 footnote.
393, excellent. Yep, it's in my book, 393 too. And it says on page 393, chapter 5, page 35, below are the rules of how to spell and that. And I gave you a little mnemonic device. Remember the bump rule, right? So the bet and the mem and the pe, it's gonna change to the u. So before most consonants, and is just the vav and the shava underneath. But before a bet, a mem, or a pe or fe, and is usually spelled u. And so that's why I get the bump, like B-M-P, bet, mem, pe. If usually it's gonna switch to u. Okay? Like and a house, ubayit. And a house, ubayit. As opposed to vebait. It'll be like, okay? So if you want to get picky and remember that, right? Before a consonant with a shava, the and is going to be, right, u. You can memorize these or just kind of go along. It's a little difficult to memorize. It's a little picky.
Yeah. I'm seeing it.
Right, it gets very detailed.
Yeah, I don't want
So then it goes on, and you guys can study that out if you know you're like, I'm going to learn those exact rules. To be honest with you, a lot of people don't have them memorized.
Is it easy? It's because it seems like it would be easier to keep that same sound that you're using in
Yeah,
the second.
it's like phonetic reason. It's for phonetic reasons. But does it always work that way? No. Okay. All right. And then it says David in Jerusalem. We're back to page 35, bottom of page 35. Well, actually, let's go over to the right. How do we say a son and a daughter? Bain. Ooh, right, not vu, right, we don't want to say
Uvat.
bain, uvat, right, but it's actually bain uvat, because we, right? A son and a daughter, and so you notice it follows the bump rule. Bain uvat. A house and an animal, bait, u vehema. Yeah, because there's no dagesh inside of the bet, making it a b. So without it, you get a v. So then David and Jerusalem, David, Yerushalayim. Right?
Is that a hero under there?
Is that a what? Say again?
A hero under the vowel?
Yep.
That's why you beat you.
Right. It kind of blended in with Yerushalayim. Okay, so that it made a blend. A word and a truth. Davar. Ve. Emet. The Emet. I love that name, by the way. Emet. Call your son Truth or something. Isn't that cute? It's awesome. So Davar ve Emet. So what happened there? It combined its vowel with the next vowel. Okay. All right. So those are your rules for and. Then we went over the use of from on page 36. Aha! How do we say number 36? How do you say 30? Shloshim and 6. Veshesh. Shloshim veshesh. The use of from in Hebrew. The word min, from, has two forms. It can appear fully spelled as min. Can also be attached to a word as the mem with the chilek, me plus, and your next, right? All right, and so you end up with a me. Now you can go back to the footnotes and you can look at those detailed reasons.
Is that on page 33?
I think it's 393 again. Yep, I like how you said that, so I'm just going to write page 393, I think, or 394. 393?
Okay, good.
So let's say, how do we say from a house? From a house. Uh-huh. Top of, right? Mi bite. So we're at the top of 36. Mi bite. From the house. Min habayit. Because that ha jumped in there, and so it separated everything. Min habayit. So how do we say from a man? Me ish. Me ish. But how do we say from the man? Min ha'ish. Now remember, we're learning how to read. So if you're like, oh gosh, how am I going to remember how to say this? It's okay. Like when I was in Israel, I was just saying, like mean, like I'm from Buffalo. I mean buffalo. I was like Nueva York, and like they loved it. And even if I was messing up my mean, they didn't care. They were very happy. Israelis are very nice about you trying to use their language. I find that with most people. So anyway, so then from the king is Me Hamelech. All right? And then we can separate that and say Min Hamelech. Right? Are you guys good with that?
Either one's the same.
You good with that? So, okay. And then we can say, we're going to talk about the use of it in Hebrew. We're in the middle of 36, middle of page 36. The masculine pronoun, how do we say he? Who? is used for it when referring to masculine nouns. But the feminine pronoun, how do we say she? He, right, is used for it when referring to feminine nouns. So let's say this. The house, and a house, right, is it masculine or feminine in Hebrew? House. It's masculine, right? You're thinking of Spanish and Italian, where it's right? Right. So and it ends with a tav. So we're thinking it's got to be feminine, but it breaks that rule, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's an exception. So the house stood and it guarded a family. Ready? Habayit, Amad, Ve'u, Shamar, Mishpacha. Right, I'm not going to read it for you, right? You guys are doing really well. Mishpacha. So it's saying the house stood and he guarded a family, right? But we don't say it like that in English, we say it, right? Okay, good. The family remembered and it went to Jerusalem. Hamishpacha, get your guttural on. Hamishpacha, Zachra, Vehi, Halcha, almost done. El, Yerushalayim. Let's say that again. Ot pam. Ready? The family remembered and it went to Jerusalem. Let's say it again. Hamishpacha, Zachra, Vehi, Halacha, El, Yerushalayim. Right? Hamishpacha, Zachra, Vehi, Halacha, right? El Yerushalayim. You guys are getting good. That's a pretty long. Right. You'll get smoother. I still like when I like stumble on new words and stuff. I'm like, oh, and I gotta sound it out. So it's all right. You guys are doing very, very well. So notice we said what? Literally, we said the family remembered and she went to Jerusalem. But in English, we don't say it that way, right? We say it. Okay? Right? Okay.
What's
Yeah.
the new word you learned?
A new word that I learned when?
I don't know. You said when you learn a new
But
word.
when I learned, yeah, I put the break sound. Like
What's
for
the new word that you
example,
learned?
like in chapter 27,
Chapter 27.
we're learning.
You guys are almost done. Is there a part two?
We're almost done with it. Yes, there is a part 2 to this book. In chapter 27, a new word for me was. Let me see which word was for me a new word. To cut. Karat. Karat is to cut. That's a brand new word. So I have to, when I'm looking at something, I gotta stop. Like I'll be like, oh, I know this word. Oh, smooth, smooth, smooth. New word. Stop and sound it out. And I always tell everybody, remember that cut sounds like karat, sounds like carrot. Like you